One situation that I've encountered that was a challenge that I grew from was learning to love my body. I'm a Jewish girl with some curves and a little thickness there, and I did not grow up in a neighborhood where that was the norm. So growing up, I really wanted to fit in and look like everybody else, but that often meant eating, restricting my eating and exercising fanatically and, kind of being obsessed with controlling food, borderline eating disorder kind of behavior. And I did that for about 3 years in high school, and then I went away to college, and I was hoping that a guy would be attracted to me as a result, and I started to get attention, but it was not really the way I wanted to get the attention. It was very sexualizing and objectifying, and I was like, wait, I just wanted to be seen. I didn't really fully understand it at the time. I just knew that it was like a little dangerous, a little violent even, I felt the power dynamic of, being sized up and that kind of thing. So, my summer after my first year of college, one of the guys that, I was sort of engaged in this dynamic with, date raped me, and that I didn't really have a name for it at the time. I just knew it was wrong. I knew I said no, and it kept on happening anyway. And that was sort of a turning point and a wake-up call for me. In hindsight, I suppose I could have fought, but I was so frozen and like, wait a minute, I want this guy to like me. What's happening? It was kind of this cognitive dissonance moment where I just didn't know what to do. So I just got through it, and I went back to college in the fall for my second year, and I ended up telling a friend who lived in my dorm, and she said, I've actually been through something like that too when I was younger, and I started to discover that some form of sexual violence of some kind had happened to so many young women that I knew. I mean, we're all like 18, 19, 20 years old, and so I was like, God, what if we had been taught to like ourselves, to love our bodies? We hadn't gotten the message in so many different ways that how we look is our currency, romantically and socially, or that we have to look a certain way in order to be listened to and heard and seen as full human beings. I gathered with some of the women in my dorm, and we decided to start a magazine called HUES, which stood for Hear Us Emerging Sisters. We were a little clever with the acronyms, and it was going to be for all the women that weren't represented in magazines. Because one of the common denominators we realized was that we had all grown up reading these teen magazines, starting to compare ourselves to the super thin, impossibly tall, white, blonde, etc. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but these was only that. It still is pretty much to this day. And we thought, what if we took the whole magazine format but turned it on its head? What I've come to stand for is radical self-acceptance, which is accepting yourself as you are and as you aren't right now. Sure, maybe I would like to be 10 pounds thinner. I'd probably get a lot of social perks if I was. I'd, feel comfortable in a certain type of bathing suit. There would be some payoffs to that. Part of being a body outlaw and standing for radical self-acceptance means, but I'm still going to wear whatever bathing suit I want, even if I am 160 pounds right now instead of maybe 145. You have to be brave to be a body outlaw. Outlaws face harassment, they face ostracism, they lose that social capital that fitting in gives you. One of the projects I've done is a book called Body Outlaws, and it's a collection of about 30 women's stories and now 2 men in a more recent edition, and their journeys to love their bodies. And it explores body image through the lens of race and gender and sexuality and being an athlete and all the different intersections of, identity that could possibly overlap with the topic of body image. And for for anyone who's struggling to love their body, this is kind of like a collection of how I did it recipes that are inspiring and raw and honest, and no BS. There's no shiny coat of happiness on it, but there's a lot of hope at the end. It's this is what I went through, this is what I realized, and this is how I walk through the world happily with my head held high, even though I don't look like necessarily the supermodel, or even if I do. So I encourage you to read the book and check it out, and go to adiosbarbie.com as well, which is the companion website, and just to love yourself through thick and thin.